We thank them for coming out on tonight. And I believe our first presentation is going to be by David Ashman. So let's give him a hand as he goes forward.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me if I don't use this? Is that comfortable? In the back, can you hear me okay? You mind if I put that down? Thank you. I'm a soft talker, so if I start to speaking up, I promise, okay? Governmental agencies like the American Red Cross, one of my best partners in Long Beach. We actually train together, we work together very closely, and wherever possible we try to train together community members. I'm also responsible for working with the region of Southern California on emergency management. I work with partners in the city of Avalon, city of Signal Hill, and help them understand what we're doing, and I learn what they're doing, and hopefully we make sure we understand each other's plans when we need to serve each other, we can serve each other well. If I'm doing my job well, you'll never hear of me. But I'm sure in the last year, you probably saw some of these things happen. There was a huge king tide about a year ago. That's when the tide rises about 1.5 feet above normal. So if you normally have a 7-foot tide, it'd be an 8.5-foot tide. So we help make sure that these properties along the waterfront were not flooded. Unfortunately, there was an incident a couple of years ago. There was a guy named Donner who went around and was killing the family members of police officers. Charged with protecting the LAPD officers' families that lived in Long Beach. So we activated for that. We activated for planned events too, like the Grand Prix, the Marathon, the Gay Pride Parade. We make sure we have a security plan for those things. So if they go south, we're there with the presence to deal with whatever issues come up. And of course, there's winter storms, excessive heat, and just a couple weeks ago, Hurricane Marie. We had a lot of tides. You heard about a lot of damage to the port. We helped make sure we had a plan to deal with that stuff. The Emergency Communications Bureau is the upstairs version of what we do. That's where our dispatch center is. We receive about 700,000 calls a year for service from both police and fire, which is a huge amount compared to our population. Both call centers, we make sure, are always meeting the state standards for response times and for their training, so they give proper information to people. When you call and say, my baby's choking, they should be able to talk you through how to help resolve that situation. We make sure they have that training all the time. We also make sure they're actually serving the public, not just giving them lip service, but actually dealing with the issue at hand, which is sometimes very difficult. As I mentioned before, we also do a lot of grant chasing. We get about $9.76 million per year to serve emergency management in this city. We work with police, fire, libraries. We come up with projects that they can put together to serve the community. We finance them, we make sure they train to them, and make sure they implement them on an annual basis. And these are 5 of the groups that we work with. UASI, the Urban Area Security Initiative, is basically FEMA. SHISGAP, State Homeland Security, is the Cal OES office. Metropolitan Medical Response is a grant that actually is stopping this year, but that helps with paramedics getting their training. Port security, we have a big port that is a huge area. We have to make sure it's safe, so we have to port security grants, and the MPG. So that keeps us pretty busy, but we also are very proud to be on the cutting edge of a lot of technology. We're currently working with Stanford, Cal Berkeley, Caltech on an earthquake early warning system.
Now, we've seen early earthquake warning systems work in Mexico and Japan. Now a warning system is about to be tested right here in the Southland that can potentially save lives. CBS 2's Christine Lazar explains where it is and how it works.
It worries me to think that a huge one might be coming. After a spring filled with seismic activity in the Southland, Long Beach city leaders excitedly announced today that their city has been chosen as a beta test site for the earthquake early warning system.
We're going to meet with USGS on Monday with a number of our key departments that will really benefit from this. And we're going to select the sites where this web-based testing will take place. We anticipate 4 or 5 sites will be selected.
The more than 500 sensors that crisscross the fault lines beneath Southern California could give a few seconds to as much as a few minutes of warning. In a city like Long Beach, that's enough to help protect the ports. Ground planes at the airport give doctors time to stop delicate procedures, allow traffic and trains to stop, for fire stations to open their doors, and for people to drop, cover, and hold.
Whether it's seconds or minutes, we'll take whatever we can, and we'll use it to our best benefit.
City leaders here in Long Beach hope that eventually their 500,000 residents can also receive an early warning, notifications sent right to their cell phone. The U.S. Geological Survey is asking the dozen or so beta test sites throughout California not to do anything with the data right now, simply to monitor it and make recommendations of what works with the computer software and what doesn't. The USGS would need about $16 million annually to implement an early warning system up and down the West Coast, similar to a system already in place in Mexico. It gave 71 seconds of warning before the 7.2 quake that struck Mexico City last week. However, Governor Jerry Brown has said no state general funds can be used for the early warning system. It's technology this Long Beach mom thinks is worth the hefty price tag. It worries me more now that I have kids than it did before. Before I'm like, oh, whatever, it's an earthquake, but this time, this last earthquake came, I definitely felt more like, oh no, like I went right to his room. In Long Beach, Christine Lazar, CBS 2 News.
So what we've been tasked to do by the universities that developed this technology is to give them ideas on how to use it effectively in the real world. So far, we have in Caltech 4 really good ideas. We have developed an app called the Early Warning app, of course, that can be given to all of our city employees. So if they're driving a truck or a car or a police car, they can get out from under overpasses, they can get in a safe position. Also we'll tell firemen, open the garage doors of their firehouse. It's a terrible shame if we need that fire truck and it's stuck behind a jammed door. That means there's going to be lives we can't save. So it's important those people get that information. We're also working with the hospitals, and we're developing an app that can tell us people who have called for 911 service for heart attacks, those type of issues, and then we can actually go to them faster than going through the dispatch area. So we're looking at a lot of different technologies and a lot of different ways to use this information. I know it sounds really weird, but 15 seconds can be a lot of time to help people get out of harm's way. And that's all you have to do, is get out of the way, survive, and then we'll put things back together. So that's a good transition to our next subject, which is simply the 4 steps of being prepared. Okay? Be informed, be connected, be ready, and be active. I'm going to go over each one of these in a little bit of detail with you. But it's as simple as those 4 steps. And these same 4 steps our Red Cross partners use every day. And they're teaching their training programs. So we try to be consistent with what they're doing as well. Okay? The first thing is be informed. What could possibly go wrong? Well, you have to know the answer to that question. Where you live, is it close to an aqueduct? Is it close to a storm drain? Is it in a flood zone? You have to know these things about your home. You have to know about the area you live in. Is it on an area that is subject to earthquakes? In Southern California, the answer is yes, correct? Absolutely. So you have to know what the risks are. So I've been studying these for a couple of years, and I can tell you they're basically down to 6. Earthquakes, floods, both from the coastal region and from above from Whittier Dam. Windstorms. We have one of the most active wind areas, usually in the afternoon down along the coastline, similar to Rhode Island, one of the top 2 in the nation. Tsunamis happen. We've actually had 2 tsunamis this year, but you didn't know that. Yeah, one was a half an inch, the other one was about 6 inches. Whenever there's an earthquake along the Aleutian Islands in Alaska, there's an induction plate there. When that plate gives way, it produces a tsunami wave. Luckily for us, they've been very, very small. But if there's ever a big one at 8 or at 8.5, we could be looking at a much higher wave like Japan had a couple of years ago. So tsunamis are a risk. Pandemics, like what we're experiencing right now with Ebola, you have to be very careful with what you're doing in that industry and be very disciplined to stick with your procedures, or you could risk spreading a disease to the community. And the last thing are man-made incidents. And unfortunately, those are acts of terrorism, failures of systems, like when they had a gas explosion in Northern California a couple years ago in the San Mateo area. A terrible situation, destroyed 10, 12 homes. Those are examples of man-made incidents. So over here on the left, you'll see all the possible things that can happen. Earthquakes, fire, floods, heat waves, storms, power outages, like we're going to have this weekend. Be prepared for a power outage. Tsunamis. And then on the other side, you'll see all the resources that can actually help you plan. The city has a website, www.cityoflongbeach.gov. That's the disaster preparedness. Go there. We have tons of information there to help you. Go to the Red Cross webpage. They've got one of the best web pages I've ever seen for sharing information with the public of how to do things and how to do them safely. So those are possibilities for you. I mentioned our hazard plan, our emergency operation plans. Those are ones that I've written and developed for the city, and we're now training to them. But also the partners in the area. Red Cross, County of Los Angeles Office of Emergency Management. FEMA has a good program called Are You Ready? Lots of good checklists and plans you can borrow. I have a great program for schools there. If you have a school associated with your organization, check that out. Cal OES, the state, and of course Be Ready is another FEMA plan. So those are ways that you can become informed about what to do. Next thing is be connected. How are you going to find out what's going on when the world's falling apart? If there's a really bad earthquake, we're probably going to lose landlines and cell phones. Not only because of the way they're structurally placed in our area compared to where faults are, but also because of the volume of people who will be using that service at the time of an incident. So you got to have a plan. I have to have a plan. So these are the tools I'm going to use. We have services you can sign up for with the city called eNotify, Nixle, and Reverse 911. Go on the city webpage, register your cell phone. So when I send out a message to the community saying, don't use PCH, there's police activity there, you'll get that message, and you can use it to your advantage. Or if I send out a message saying the 710 is clogged up because of a flood or something during a severe storm, you'll get that information, know to stay away from that area. But more importantly, should we have a devastating earthquake, a active shooter at a school, we'll send that information that way too and tell you so you know what's going on in your community. Being informed is being protected. Does everybody remember that unfortunate incident at Santa Monica College maybe a year and a half ago? You know the interesting thing that happened? Social media told the sheriff what was going on. Within 30 seconds of that first bullet being fired, a lieutenant, LA Sheriff Department, was tracking social media. People sending messages to their friends, stay in your classroom, there's a shooter on campus, don't go outside. By the time he called Santa Monica, the 911 calls were starting to go to the Santa Monica police station. Social media is the future of information exchange. Learn how to use it. We have social media we're using here. We have Facebook, Twitter, all those things. Come on our website, we'll friend you, and start to get information. And we put out a lot of information on a regular basis.
And also we had things like earthquake early warning. We hope within the next year we'll be able to share that with the public. Also, for Long Beach, if something's going on in our city and we lose communications, sometimes the radio stations will still work, because radio stations have to have 2 broadcast points, one in the city and one up on a mountain north of us. So KKJZ will be able to broadcast. We'll give out emergency information to the public through KKJZ. So if something goes wrong, turn them on in your radio, turn them on in your handheld crank radio, go from there. We also work with KNX, KFWB, and KFI, all news channels that help get information out to you. And the important thing about the information we're giving you is it's vetted. We check all the information that goes to our emergency communication center, because we got to make sure it's truthful and we give you good advice. I have a friend who went to a tornado in Oklahoma, and the path of the tornado was going a certain way. And he came to that point where he had to make a decision. Tell that community, go north or go south on this freeway. The information at that moment in time told him, send everyone south. Unfortunately, the tornado turned, and he sent a lot of people the wrong way. He had the right intention. He's a good man. Things changed, and unfortunately, it was not good for the people of that community. But they were able to get information out using news services like this to help people stop, so they were able to save some people from going down the wrong road at the wrong time. So we have to look out for things like that too. Long Beach TV, if you have Charter Communications Channel 3 or VIOS, is Channel 21. We'll also work with the local news channels. If you're, a lot of people have cable, a lot of people have different subscription services. You know there's a digital network for free that has over 150 channels on it, and they have got pretty good programming. Get the digital receiver from a different electronic source, Target has them, whatever. You can access more of these channels. There's like 9 channel 2s, and everything's a different program they have is actually pretty good. That will probably work in an emergency, where most of the other network stuff will not because of where it's broadcast from. If you have direct TV, things like that, you'll still be able to keep your communications because those switch satellites. The one that's over LA will probably switch to the one over Denver. That way you'll still be maintaining your communication link and get information from them. So there's multiple ways to stay connected, but I guarantee you, you'll want that information. It may tell you have to leave, it may tell you to hunker down and stay there, but listen to the information, do what's asked of you, and you'll probably be safe. Okay? Next thing you do is be ready. Go ahead. I've passed out some things here that have all the information we're talking about. This is the one about being connected. So you look at that, use that, sign up as soon as you can. Next is be ready. Basically, it's have a plan. Tonight, I shared a bunch of information with you with these handouts. One is a simple 2-page, front and back, thing about earthquakes. What to do before an earthquake, what to do during an earthquake, and what to do after an earthquake. Take a moment and read that, and then think how you can apply it to your home, to your house. I challenge you to just do one thing tonight. When you go home, get an extra pair of shoes and stick them on the corner of your bed, or just underneath your bed where you would get out of bed in that whenever you wake up. The reason why you want a pair of shoes there is if you have a window in your bedroom and there's an earthquake, the glass is going to break. Art may fall off the walls. Ceramic, crystal type of figurines may fall and break. There's going to be broken stuff all over the place. When you roll out of bed, put your shoes on, and then go do what you have to do to keep your family safe. But this way, you're not going to become one of the walking wounded. You're not going to end up with cuts all over your feet. You're going to be able to do things to keep your family safe. Just try that one thing tonight to help keep your family safe. And those kind of ideas are in this information I have for you here. I also have given you guys copies of this comprehensive guide to personal preparedness. This started out as a document we shared with our employees to help keep them safe, to help keep their families safe. I know in my home, if my house isn't in order, I'm not coming to work. I'm going to take care of my wife and kids and make sure they're okay. This is a tool to help me prepare my home for any emergency. There's stuff in here about emergency kits, those type of things, but also communication plans. That's really important. How do you find out where people are and how to get information to them that we're all going to meet here or wherever it is we're going to meet? That's critical. So take your time to go through this. If you have any questions about this, please call me or send me an email, and you get my information through Patrick, because I want you to be able to apply this. So give that a look when you have a second. Okay? As I said before, on our website, there's all kinds of wonderful information. The Be Prepared Guide, We have evacuation plans, emergency kits, emergency supply kits. If you have members of your family who have access and functional need issues, wheelchairs, maybe autism, we have a section there about planning for that scenario. Seniors, young children, how to shelter in place, how to take care of your pets. Believe it or not, pets are really important when things go bad like this. They offer us comfort, they offer us a good feeling. They're our family. So make sure you have a plan for dealing with your pets. And we talked about communication. Find different ways to find out what's going on. Get a cell phone if you don't have one. Texting is one of the ways you're going to be able to talk to your family and friends in an emergency. The cell phone won't work as a phone, but it'll work as a device to send texts, and you'll be able to get through to people. And it's about how the technology works that allows that to happen. Once you enter it and send it, it keeps going and keeps going until it goes through. So it may still take 30 minutes, but it will go through. So get yourself a cell phone if you don't have one. Okay? If I'm going too fast, slow me down. I get excited and I start wanting to talk fast. I'm sorry. Last thing is be active. What you're doing tonight is perfect. That's a perfect example of be active. Be active as a community. Be active sharing information. Be active taking care of those that you love most. Because if you can do that, you're going to be okay no matter what happens. Okay? Most people will tell you, have a plan for 3 to 5 days. I would offer you to consider maybe a little bit longer than that. If there's a major earthquake, an 8.0 or higher, the place we get all our water from is in Northern California, right? Right over the San Andreas Fault, it will run to Southern California. We're probably going to lose our water supply. Really important, have a water supply, okay? Have some backup food, those type of things. But think about that, and think about how long it will take to get us, the city, back to help you. Once I make sure my family's okay and I go to work, it's going to take me 4 or 5 hours to get everyone else around me and start doing the things we have to do. We're going to have to inspect buildings, inspect our trucks, make sure we can go out and do the things we need to do. We got to make sure people are there to drive them. It's going to take me a while to get active and to you. And I got to find water too. I've got to find food to feed my people and those type of things. So it's going to take me about 3 days after a major disaster to really get out into every corner of the community. If you can be prepared to survive on your own for 3 to 5 days, I know I'm going to find you well. Okay? I'm not going to have to worry about security issues and people taking stuff from other people. If everyone provides some kind of items for themselves for 3 to 5 days, we're all going to be okay. Hurricane Sandy, one of the things they found is blocks became communities. Okay? Emergency planning starts in here. Starts with me. How many people have ever ridden on a plane somewhere in the last couple of years? When they do that safety speech at the beginning of that talk, the first thing they say is, when that oxygen mask comes down, take care of yourself first, then take care of those you love. Okay? Emergency preparedness is the same way. Make sure you're going to be okay, make sure your loved ones are okay, make sure the house isn't going to fall down, take care of your block, take care of your community, and somewhere while you're taking care of that group, you're going to meet me coming in with the city resources. That's how emergency management works in a nutshell. That make sense? So I want to tell you some things that we do to prepare. First of all, we have partners with Red Cross. We have partnerships with CERT. We just did a huge event in Hartwell Park a couple Saturdays ago, helping people learn to be prepared. We also train from our department heads to our frontline staff. We train on a quarterly basis. We just had our executives go through an earthquake exercise where we pretty much decimated the city and cut in half. We made them come up with ways to fix things. They hate it. They hate my training because I make them think I make them sweat because they have to come up with ways to fix things. We also develop training groups, and the Red Cross has been participating in this, an all hazard incident management team. It's called, it starts with a 305 class, then you go to other training. But when you have this training, you can handle a disaster anywhere. This team will be able to go to New York, Louisiana, Oklahoma when there's an incident and run that incident and take care of that community or take care of us if there's a major disaster. So you do a lot of training. And again, other partners in the areas where you can volunteer, USAR Search and Rescue, Amateur Radio, Cal OES, Be Ready, and then of course the American Red Cross is a great organization to volunteer for. So that's, in essence, how you can be active in your community. But doing what you're doing right now is perfect. It is a great step for making sure you're all, as one community, going to be in better shape. Does that make sense? So simple, right? Be informed, okay? Be connected. be ready, okay, be active. You do those 4 things, you're going to be just fine. All those you love are going to be just fine. But you got to make the decision to do them. When you do, that's when organizations like the city and like the American Red Cross are there to help you. On a sheet I handed out earlier, it has our webpage on the bottom there, where you can get more information about preparedness. Okay. This is what our webpage looks like. We should call it up. And if you go to the sections where it says family preparedness, workplace preparedness, emergency preparedness plans, and volunteer and donation ideas, you can actually see what the city's planning to do. You can see suggestions we're making on how to keep yourself safe, your family safe, even your workplace safe. So when you have time, please look at this. Take the information out. Use it any way you can. If you want to do training, call me. I'll help you teach your organization how to train to that skill set. So if you want to talk about how to be safe with water, I think I gave you guys a handout about safe water, know your water. Simple things like should there be a really bad earthquake, you're at home. After you make sure you're okay, your family's okay, first thing you should do, go to your bathtub, stop it up, and turn the cold water on. Why would I do that? Because I have more water supply that way. I can guarantee I'm going to be able to last a few more days until someone can come and help me if I fill that bathtub up with water. A bathtub is what, 35, 40 gallons? Okay, one person needs 1 gallon of water per day just to survive. Okay? So if you fill that bathtub up and you have a water heater, you've got over 70 gallons of water in that house. You're going to be okay. And you keep that water flowing until you see something change in it. It starts to change in color, it starts to smell, or it starts to look slick. Okay? Turn the water off. Whatever's there you can use for hygiene. You could boil it, you can filter it, and use it for drinking and cooking. Those are the kind of ideas that we have on our website to share with you. Again, the American Red Cross has a great website. They have similar ideas. And we're consistent in message. We're saying the same thing about how to be safe. So we're not going to confuse anyone. We're saying the same thing the same way with the same preparation. So I think we're on the right track with that. So that's an example of what we can offer your organization. And that really concludes what I have to talk about. But I'm available for questions after the Red Cross is done to talk about anything specific to an emergency you'd like to know more about. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
In that case, I turn the floor over to my colleague with the American Red Cross.